should be interesting. We are live on YouTube at the same time. This is a lot's happening right now, so this could go really well or really badly. We'll find out shortly. Hey, welcome, John and Anita. Sean, how are you doing, brother? All right, so we are live on YouTube right now. I'm really, really excited. We've been looking to do this for a while. We've got, oh, sorry, there's a delay, guys. Give me 1 second. There you go. I was able to mute that, so I'm not hearing myself talk as we're going live on YouTube. So first thing I want to talk about is the fact that we're doing this in the webinar format. So for those of you who've been with us for some time, you know, we used to do these in-house pre-COVID at the new office, and they've been great. We grew from, I'd probably say, what, Lindsay, like 15 to 30 people to about 71 registrants right now. So we moved to the webinar platform for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to allow you guys to do the Q&A function. So as you guys drop questions, I like answering them live and make them part of the conversation. If a lot of questions pop up, we will do a designated Q&A time, both for Jake and Paula as a success story at the end, and then for Sarah and Nick during their session. But you know, it empowers you guys as a community to activate this group even more, and we'll grow the webinar as the attendees. So if we cap out at 100, I didn't even look at the registration size. Yeah, we're 75 now. Then we'll just upgrade the account and give you guys more tools. And this is going to be an exciting year, I think, for these meetups. We've got some awesome guests coming on. Sarah and Nick are longtime friends of ours digitally. We've known each other for years. And I mean, I would consider you guys friends from the standpoint that we've really supported each other. And when I was kind of growing my account and our business, you guys were always there and just literally feeding me that positivity and helping me, you know, be motivated to do more. And then I'd go on, I'd see all the stuff you guys were doing and it would fire me up. So it's been awesome to watch you guys grow. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah. And as always, we have Lindsay Gowan. She is the coordinator. She does a lot of the investor stuff. Lindsay, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hey everyone, excited to be with you here this Saturday morning, and I'm so excited for investors to come on and talk to us, and we've got Jake and Paula to do a success story as well.
And we've also got Adnan. So Adnan, you want to introduce yourself? He is the director of operations at Prime. So he's Justin 2.0. He's the brain, handles all the back end, the tech. You know, just got his real estate license. So he's going to be actually an active real estate agent as well, but he's going to work internally, infrastructure wise on Prime. And interesting, came on to learn the investing world and really be part of it. Adnan does all the analytics. So pumps out all the financial analysis on all the investment properties in London that you guys are getting on our email list. So Adnan, you want to say hi to everybody so they know who you are?
Morning. My name is Adnan. I come from originally an editing background in film and commercial. So I've got that in my back pocket ready whenever, you know. So I think Justin gives me a little too much credit, you know, operating the Death Star back here, but I hope everybody's got their coffee ready. That's it.
Works out well. And this is a testament to what we're doing here. Like Adnan and I met, literally, I saw a really cool photo he did online. I just gave him props on it. That was it. He reached out to me. It was like, hey, I'm looking to get into the real estate industry. And I was driving to work. Still remember the day. Told him, call me. We talked for 25 minutes. I told him what to watch out for. There's no intention of recruiting him or anything. I just said, like, as you're getting into the industry, you want to watch out for A, B, and C. Decide what you want to do. If you need anything, call me. Lo and behold, I found out he's got some wild video editing skills. So a lot of the content you guys see us put out, that's money right there who's doing it, but also really statistics driven, which is awesome. And then the last two people I introduced, Jake and Paula. You guys are active investors doing lots in the community. We'll dig into your success story in a minute, but you guys want to say hi really quick?
Hey guys.
Hey everyone. Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
No, my pleasure. So a couple of housekeeping items as well. So we've been working on getting a texting platform for the whole community for some time now. We just got accepted into the one that we wanted to get into. So I'm going to give you guys a number in the group chat. If you want to text hi to that number, it actually comes to me directly. A lot of you guys will think it's like MailChimp or some like software that somebody else is managing. It's actually me. And we'll go through it every single day and we'll send all the off-market opportunities, the meetup links. Just a very simple way for you guys to get access to things that we do. The idea is we're trying to save you time. So when we send out links and invites and, you know, opportunities, we don't want you to have to go through your email and a million different inboxes. Pops up on your phone. Not interested, don't even look at it. If you are, just click the link. You're good to go. So that number is 226-799-9434. And to give you an example, We're not actually going to sell you anything in this event today at all. But what that platform does is, like, we got an off-market multi-family commercial building. So it's 8 residential units, 6 commercial units, probably going to be like 3.2 million, probably at around like a 5 cap with some good upside in rents. That went out to the community this week. So it's a very exclusive list of people. This is not going to be an MLS marketed property. We're being very diligent on vetting the opportunities as well as the people. So we don't want 500 million people in our database. We'd rather have 100 really cool people we want to work with over and over and over than just blast the whole world, all of our stuff. So that's probably the biggest announcement that we have. Market update. So I'll give you guys a little bit of a rundown as to what we're seeing on the back end. Everybody's always asking us. And then Lindsay was involved in a pretty crazy transaction yesterday and very active in the market. So I'll let her to speak to what she's seen in the last couple of weeks. But there was 1,035 new listings, 931 sales. Last 2 months has been a lot of multiple offers, stuff going 50, 100 over asking price. But keep in mind, it's a very specific price point. That's like 200 to 500 and priced super aggressive. So if it's worth 350 and they price it at 299 and it sells for 425, everybody thinks it's insane. But truthfully, it didn't sell that much over asking price. It sold over what it was actually worth. They just priced strategically. But at the same time, we're setting new records every day, which is pretty crazy. The listing to sales ratio is about 104%, which means we have about 1.1 months of inventory. So if nobody listed a property tomorrow, in 1.1 months, we'd have 0 listings left on our MLS. So that should tell you something. And the average house price in London cracked $500,000. We've always been a town. Like, I remember when I started in the business, 275,000 was our average price point. And now we're $500,000. I equate that to Uncle Jimmy around the corner saying back in the 40s, oh my gosh, that house was 40 grand. Now it's 100. There's no way this can continue. And then 100 went to 200, then 200 went to 400. I'm sure all of us will be old and gray one day looking back saying, I wish I bought every piece of real estate I could. But fortunately, money tends to be a limitation sometimes. Lindsay, you called me 35 times yesterday. How was your day yesterday?
It was a crazy day yesterday. Yeah. So we had a listing in that kind of price point, priced it lower, and definitely has helped us to set a record in that neighborhood. So can't reveal anything yet because we haven't received the deposit yet. But yeah, yesterday was crazy.
What are you seeing in the market in general, like the last couple of weeks, and dealing with trying to find deals for clients and get offers done?
Yeah, so just such a lack of inventory still, such high demand. So again, it's creating those crazy over asking deals, but again, they're priced right to get that over asking results. And yeah, there's not a lot out there. So for buyers, I can see how it can get a little bit frustrating, but just putting different strategies in place to look at deals that have maybe been sitting longer. Yes, there have been actually properties that have been sitting for more than 7 days. So looking at those, but yeah, things going really quick. We were holding offers on the one that we had that we accepted an offer yesterday, but we didn't, we were looking at preemptives as well. So
can you break something down for me, actually? I want you to break down. Sorry, give me 1 second here. I'm just going to see if I can do this. So break this down for me, because we got people that are actively selling properties that may not be real estate agents, right? So you have a property listed, you're accepting offers on a certain date, you get a bully offer that has a really short irrevocability. It's not necessarily the price that you want for your seller. How do you maximize that? Or how do you create a situation to get another offer, and then another offer, and then another offer? Like, break through the sequence for people so they can understand either how to give their agent direction if the agent's not doing it themselves, or what they should be seeing from their representatives.
Yeah, definitely. So you try and get the longest irrevocable period, just to give your clients the best kind of I guess, timeline to deal with all of these offers. So that's kind of how it started yesterday. Was we did get one that was a longer irrevocable period. Wasn't really top end where we thought we could be, but we did have indication that more offers were coming in. So just giving us some time to deal with them. And then also, so when shorter irrevocable periods come in, just letting them know that our brokerage policy is a little bit longer than that, to give our clients more time to decide. And yeah, and just sending out notices as soon as you get these offers so that everyone knows where we're at, they know the interest level, and then reaching out directly to the agents that are interested too, because not everyone checks their email. And they might be looking at their email at 4 p.m. and you said that you were looking at offers at 4:30 and they are in a frantic rush to kind of get something together. So
yeah, and actually I sit on the professional standards committee. Something that I always like to highlight is, sorry, give me 1 second. I'm just figuring out the webinar stuff at the same time to make sure that we're all good. So I sit on professional standards. The reason I'm having Lindsay explain that is what people don't see on the back end from a real estate agent's perspective is, say you have 15 people that express interest in a property, you get the first offer and you say, hey, these are the ground rules. We're taking offers at whatever, midnight. And then an agent comes in and says, my offer is only good till 5 p.m., but it's like 40 grand more than asking. You want your seller to take it. You can get caught up in that hype and say, hey, take this offer and accept it, not contact the other people. And then you can actually be up in front of professional standards because of the fact that, you know, you didn't contact everybody and give them an opportunity to come in. Now, and the other thing that's super important is if you're an agent and you do that and you don't give somebody notice, your seller might lose money. So had Lindsay not known what to do in that instance or called me or coordinated and figured everything out, probably would have left a lot of money on the table because of where the offers actually ended up after. I mean, you got to assume that people aren't looking at their phones. So going through that sequence of events, emailing them, sending them whatever you have through like the MLS system, and then actually picking up the phone and calling them. And then also managing how everything's happening to make sure the sellers are protected, the buyers. So it can get pretty in depth. I'm not going to go down too much of a wormhole. I know Paula might get a kick out of it because congratulations, Paula. I know you got your license as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Learning that world very, very quickly, but
yeah,
it's a pretty nutty world right now. So thank you, Lindsay. I'm going to boot you out. I'm going to bring in Jake and Paula and I'm going to start asking you guys some questions. Actually, you know what, Lindsay? I'm going to boot myself out. I'll let you discuss the success story with Jake and Paula, and then I'll jump back in with Sarah and Nick.
Okay. Yeah. So Jake and Paula, they have massive goals, and you guys kind of give a little bit of background about what you are trying to achieve within the next 365 days.
Sure, yeah. So Paul and I are together today. She's away, so we're kind of separate here. But yeah, so our goal, I don't know when we started. Paul might have a better idea. I think it was in June maybe, but our goal for 365 days was to buy 20 properties.
June 22nd.
June 22nd, there you go. So yeah, so June 22nd, 2021, we want to have bought 20 properties. Different strategies for all of those, but 20 properties was our goal, and we're at 5 right now. So.
That's awesome. Sorry. So what was the thought behind the 25? So why did you pick the number, or was it something that you were trying to challenge yourself to make sure that you guys were pulling the trigger, or what made you come up with that number, and how did you think it was even possible in this world?
The number is basically just a goal we set for ourselves. It could have been 10, could have been 15. We went with 20. We wanted to set our goal high, and yeah, so we're working towards that. Sorry, what's the second part of the question?
I think our thought process behind that was that prices aren't getting any lower, and for a lot of the things that we want to do, we want to like buy single family homes and convert them into either 2 or 3 units depending on zoning. So our thought was like, let's jump in now before things get any higher and things get any tighter. So we're just gonna a year, not saying we're gonna slow down after the year, but that was kind of our thought process, is like, we're going hard and we're gonna do this. So
for sure. And have you guys broken it down into more simple steps than your average person that kind of gets stuck in paralysis that my analysis does? What I mean by that is you have an ideal property type, certain set of numbers you want to see, a certain amount of upside, and then either the long-term buy and hold strategy or flip strategy. Like, how did you guys structure that whole process?
Yeah, we have our so for the specific property we're talking about that we purchased with Lindsay, we had our ceiling purchase price that we would know the numbers work, and for that specific property was a secondary suite conversion. So for that, yeah, we have our ceiling purchase price. We know the reno cost, so we have all that, And then we also have specific areas that we're working in within London, specific neighborhoods. So am I freezing? Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, you're streaming on mine.
I'm good? Yeah.
Lindsay's was lagging a little bit. That's why I jumped in.
Oh, sorry.
And having the chat with you guys. But
Yeah.
so how did you come? No, you're good. So how did you come up with the ceiling first? Like, how did you come up with, where that top end was for this specific property for an investor that doesn't maybe know how to do that process?
Yeah, just run the numbers. So we use a couple of different things. There's an app called app or program, I guess, called Deal Check. It's free, and there's also a nice spreadsheet we like to use. It's a little less in depth, but quicker to use, and it's from Andrew Hines, and it's a free spreadsheet that you can get from his website. Super awesome. Just kind of fill in the blanks, and yeah, that kind of lays it out for us. And we know we've done a couple of renovations in the past, so we kind of know those costs and our borrowing costs, and add that all together, and there's our kind of top number. So we just go with our in the specific neighborhood we want with Lindsay, very competitive neighborhood. We definitely got that property undervalued, so we just went with our top number and didn't expect to get it, and we did, so that was good.
That's a good feeling, right? And that's my basic advice
absolutely.
to people is be prepared to walk away. Not every deal is going to be the right deal, and if you draw that line in the sand, you're fine losing it. I mean, we all get that feeling. I'm sure even Sarah and Nick will talk about this later. Like every time you write a deal, if you're going to get it, you get that second where you're like, oh, your heart kind of jumps into your throat. I still get it. I'm in the business and we see as many deals as we do. So it's just kind of part of the fun of it, but you still got to take your shots, right? And even stuff that's on the MLS, people, they rag on it. They only look for off-market deals. Well, some of the off-market deals I've seen, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Some of the best deals I've ever done for any investors or even ourselves was stuff I found on the MLS that was overlooked because the mass of people would look at it and be like, oh, it's been on the market for 8 months. And then you get it in the right hands and they have the right vision for it. They reconfigure a fourplex, and there's a couple here that made over $250,000 on one of those. So yeah, that's
definitely.
pretty awesome. Lindsay, I'll let you jump in.
That's kind of what this deal has really taught me is like, it's always worth taking the shot. And Paul and Jake and I had offered on another property as well in that neighborhood. I think you guys had offered a little bit more on that one, lost out on it, and weren't really expecting to get this one. But if you want to kind of go through what we included in the offer and why you think that we were able to get this one under contract.
Sure. So
I'll let Paula do this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We tend to buy houses that need renovation. And a lot of the time they're for people who like in this specific neighborhood, there's a lot of original owners. So they're moving into retirement homes or they're passing away. So it's their families who are left to kind of clean out their homes. So we like to leave or use a condition that says like, you can leave whatever you want behind. Just as kind of a way to like kind of sweeten the deal because we know we can't go up with price. So let's try and, leave them something that might be appealing if maybe money isn't their like number one factor when they're deciding to sell. So when Lindsay called us, we've had our offer in us, and she was like, I think was there 5 offers total? So 4 other offers.
I think 4 total.
4 or 5. 4 total, yeah. So she called, and then when you hear that, we're like, nah, like we're not getting it. We know what houses sell for in this neighborhood, and we're well below. And then she called us and said, "Can you guys bump your closing date up by half or by 30 days?" And I was like, "Does this mean we're in the running here? Like this is kind of crazy." And we're like, "Of course, yes, we'll bump our closing date up. Like at least it gets us a little bit closer to maybe getting it." And then she called us and said that we got it. We were still in disbelief. Like, we can't believe we just bought a house on MLS, like for this price. Like, this is mind blowing. And then 30 days later, we get the keys, step inside, and we're like, aha, this is why we got it. Everything was left behind. So it was exactly as it was when we saw it. Like dishes in the cupboards, it was left exactly the same way. And from talking to the neighbors, that was like definitely a selling point for them. They didn't want to have to come and move all this stuff out. Like there's stuff that's been there since 1960, and there's a lot of stuff. So
you got some good finds though, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in that house. Like we love seeing that stuff. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Did you guys documenting the process? I know we spoke about that early on. Are you going through kind of making sure you're recording it and for future use or whatever?
Yeah, we're trying our best to keep videos and stuff. We're not maybe the best at posting them, but we've got a lot of stuff. So
No, that's awesome. Good for you guys. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you guys. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to connect with Paula and Jake directly. They're part of the community. They're very accessible. You want to drop your IG handles so people can follow you guys on Instagram and ask any questions you might have?
sure. Yeah. Jake, do you want to do that?
I'm not really good with this
Okay.
Zoom
I'll
or
do
whatever
it.
I'm on right now, so I'll let you do that. I don't
Okay.
even know how to type on here. I'm on my phone, so if I had my computer, I can maybe do it, but I'll let Paula
And
do
Paula
that.
and Jake they're going to be our guests next month. So they're going to be on the live podcast. We're going to really get more in detail into their story. So we're super excited about that.
Thank
Awesome.
you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys, for
All
having
right.
us.
Take care.
And thank you, Lindsay, for helping us get that deal. We wouldn't have got it without you. So
Great.
Awesome. I'm going to bring on our other guests, Nick and Sarah. So give me 1 second here and add you guys to the screen. Adnan, I'm going to check in with you because you're the tech guy as well. Is everything working well as far as the screens hopping back and forth since this is the first time we're using webinar?
So far, so good.
Awesome. Well, don't we have a special couple here sitting from Columbus, Ohio, all the way in Canada. Thank you for joining us, guys.
We're pumped to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so give a bit of your backstory for people that don't know you as well as I do. The whole story, like where'd you guys grow up? Where'd you move? How did you end up in Columbus? How did you end up on this podcast?
So that's a loaded question just because we have a storied background. I guess I'll go first, then you can go, and then you'll see how we intertwine. But I've always wanted to be, when I was little, always wanted to be an actor, performer, musical theater, singing, dancing, acting. I mean, from the time I was 3, I watched West Side Story every single day of my life. And I knew I wanted to move to New York City and pursue that. And so I did, because whatever I say I'm going to do, I do, down to a fault. But I moved to New York City. I actually made a living singing, dancing, and acting for about 12 years. Towards the end of those 12 years, though, I started falling out of love with all the stuff that goes with it. And I found myself just looking at houses a lot. When I was growing up, I also loved the 4 walls that surrounded me. So I painted my parents' house when I was little. My dad's an electrician, so I helped him fix up our basement. I hung wallpaper when I was 12 in my bedroom. Like I loved making my house a home. And my parents were they had a great career. So they didn't spend a lot of time making the house a home. They kind of depended on me to do that. And so when I was transitioning, I was like, what can I do if I'm not going to be an actor? And I ended up falling into the world of professional organizing and interior design. And at the same time,
I think the reason for your transition too is because acting was taking you out of New York City and you wanted to be in the city.
that's probably true. Yeah.
We lived in the city and you weren't there most of the time.
I was traveling a lot. I was on the national tour of Hairspray and a show called Wonderful Town. We actually stopped in London, Ontario. So I've been there a few times. But yeah, so actually Nick and I met in college. He was studying architecture. I was studying theater. And I was like, I'm going to New York City.
Sarah was my boss. She was the SRA. I was a lowly RA where we helped run the dormitories. Although we called them residents, we couldn't call them dormitories.
Yeah.
And she was perfect at it. She was the best RA that ever went through Kent State, and I was probably the worst. So we got along fabulously. I think I had to stay and get my master's in architecture. So we ended up dating long distance for 4 years while you were traveling all over the world. Mm-hmm. And I spent a year in Italy for undergrad and a semester at graduate school. And then at the time of graduation, she's like, hey, you're going to come to New York or we're going to break up. And I said, let's give it a try. And this was in 2009 when internships were competitive and non-paid in New York City. And coming from Ohio, New York City was extremely expensive for both of us. Yeah. So there was a lot of challenges and growing pains growing up there, or starting a new life there right after marriage and graduation. But we hustled. I had a full-time job at Planet Hollywood.
Holding armed with a master's degree,
yep,
and
holding a menu in Times Square, telling people to come inside and eat our food. And And I had a internship at a design firm where I designed corporate interiors, which ultimately led me to get a job at Google, which I loved. I got to meet a lot of fantastic, talented people there. And it was a great job. I was a space planner, so I could design all the spaces with no budgets, you know, and just kind of have fun with it. And I was inspired by a lot of the employees who had side hustles. I'm like, well, I need to get my real estate license. I need to get my GC's license. I started a handyman business. Sarah was organizing, and then we started feeding each other clients because we started overlapping a little bit. And then we just started helping each other, and I'm moving furniture for her, and she's caulking baseboards and painting baseboards for me. And then we step it up. We're doing full gut renovations and luxury apartments. And then and it was an easy sell because we were designers. We're designers that are going to do the project for you. And then we started scaling it, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. We can't do all this. We need people.
We need people. And it was also like you're breaking down a sheet of drywall because it won't fit up the elevator or turn the corner in the alleys of New York City. So, well, there's no alleys actually in New York City. So usually you have to go in the front and go in the regular elevator. So you're breaking down a sheet of drywall just to put it back together again. But I guess at the same time, you guys, we also, like, I don't know, you had read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and you're like, you should read this book because we were renting. And I was like, okay, so I read it, and I was like everyone else, I feel like in the world, they were like instantly changed forever. And so we lived in Queens, Astoria, Queens at the time. It's actually quite close to Manhattan. It's a great location. And I was walking around the streets one day, and there's this little tiny ugly house that like hidden between like all these big buildings.
The tiniest house in Queens.
The ugliest
Astoria.
and tiniest house in Queens, Astoria. But the cool thing about this house, you talked about like having a vision for something. The cool thing about this house that was listed and had been sitting there for a while was that although it wasn't a duplex, it was a single family home attached on one side to another home, but freestanding. It's not a condo, nothing like that. There's a door underneath the main door. Like you walk down these steps, and it brought you to a large space and a half bath that was connected to the kitchen. That's also sub-level. So like interesting, but in New York City, like you'll do whatever to live in a great neighborhood, super safe area, close to the train.
It's the best neighborhood. I mean, it actually is one of the best neighborhoods.
It
now.
truly is.
It's amazing.
I worked at a hotel at the time because I kind of said goodbye to acting. Nick was at Google, and we got together. What was it, like 3%? And we put an offer on this house because no one, it had just been sitting there.
I just wanted to buy a house. I just turned 30. And I was like, we need to get a house. And a lot of our friends, you rent in New York City.
Yeah,
it's expensive.
Yeah.
But 3%, let's make it work.
Yeah.
And
so we did. We got the house, and then our own two hands, like we dug the basement foundation to make the ceilings. But they were taller than 8 feet when we were done with them. Right?
Oh yeah, a little bit taller.
A little bit taller than 8 feet. We put a new support beam in the home. I mean, this beam, don't do this because we were stupid, but we didn't pull any permits. We like called our engineer friend who like did all the math for us.
It was all to code. This is our first this was our first huge project, and we're just like,
there's literally an I-beam sitting in our front yard. Take it to the backyard, and we like put it through a window. We like jack up the house, put a new support beam in, because the one that we found was like this old piece of wood that was cracked. Anyway, we like add a full bath. And at the time, Airbnb was like, no one knew about it. Only New Yorkers were doing it. Maybe people in LA.
2012.
Yeah. And our Australian friend was doing it in his apartment in Astoria. And one day he was like, hey, can you remake this bed for me? I'm not going to make it back in time before this guest arrives. And I was like, sure. Again, I was working at a hotel at the time. So I've always had a ton of hospitality experience as an actor. In between gigs, you hop behind a bar, you make a killing, you go back on tour. That was your life. So I was doing this, and I was like, how much are you making doing this? And he told me. And so long story short, we ended up Airbnb before it was cool, paying our New York City mortgage and actually cash flowing. We do that for a couple years.
Off of our basement.
Yeah, like off this really
it had its own walkout.
Property.
It had its own walkout.
We never saw our guests. We put a lockbox in the door. This is before smart locks were like a thing. A lockbox in the door. I gave the guests instructions. They were never there because they're out exploring the city. but we had strangers in our house for 2 years. It was,
And we were
pretty
renting to a
great.
friend at first for the first year. And then I think in just 2012,
we
we're
were
like,
we
what
make
can we
money
do to,
doing this?
yeah.
All the while, somehow, this is also when Instagram was getting started up. I got a DM from someone who was running auditions for HGTV, and they're like, we think you should audition for the show. And so we started this 4-month audition process for a competition show on HGTV. And we ended up getting it. And so we spent 2 months in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
With no phones.
No, they don't let you talk to anybody.
No communication.
No communication. And we are essentially renovating a vacation property. And so the whole point of vacation properties, right? It's very different than renovating for a home buyer, or you're renovating for renters. So we were learning the biggest lesson of our soon-to-be lives, on national TV. Made a ton of mistakes. It was really embarrassing, but we also had a blast. And then you could say, like, you always have that credit. Like, we were on HGTV and our designs were there and our know-how was displayed for the world to see. We get back, we have a ton of confidence. We started business together. We decided we want to do more real estate. New York City is a little tough, and we're fast movers. And so we sold the house. We doubled our.
We got an offer we couldn't refuse.
Well, because we showed them the money that they could make if they just kept short-term renting it.
And we actually sold it as an Airbnb, and
Yeah.
they kept it
cool.
They kept it running as one. In fact, they turned the whole house into an Airbnb.
We doubled. We bought the house for what?
$470.
Sold it 4 years later.
It was actually. It was. Do you know it was listed for I think at $530.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Going back to what we were saying earlier, right, about people overlooking opportunities.
Yeah.
We see it every day, and people, they'll find 99 reasons to do something and one reason not. Listening to your story, like, you had the inception from the book. It was kind of brewing inside you. You're like, I gotta own something. I gotta find a way to own something. That's the story of every successful investor. Even Scott McGilvery is a friend of ours, and I listened to your story, and he has his show now where he's doing the cottage stuff. And Scott's story is very similar to yours, where he just found a way. Like, his contractors weren't showing up, so he went to Home Depot, did the hour course on figuring out flooring, did it, and so on and so forth, right? So you guys made the money off the place in New York, left New York City, I understand, and then found another place. So how did you find the next place to go to, and what does that story look like?
It didn't really make sense for us to stay in New York City when we sold our house, because everything was just going up so quickly.
So expensive.
So we would just be trading one for the other. And we've been sacrificing for several years, and we wanted to get into real estate, and instead of doing other people's projects, do our own. So we started doing our homework. I made spreadsheets. I got days of sunshine,
elevation,
population,
how much a gallon of milk costs,
Yeah.
what is gaseline going
Cost of
for,
living index.
how long is a property sitting on the market,
business,
price per square foot,
the economic environment,
Makeup,
and kind of the demographic of people, and really every aspect that you can possibly think of. That's why are people moving here? What's the fastest growing city? Where's the most opportunity? And of course, at the top of the list, there's some big cities that, Austin, Denver, Seattle, Portland.
They all sounded cool, but they would just be trading Queen's life for
they're
that
very
life.
expensive also.
Yeah.
And we wanted to live downtown. We were used to New York City. We wanted to have something that had a lot of energy and that same kind of vibe, which is hard to find.
We found, to make a very long story short, because it'd take a while, but we found Columbus, Ohio. And
we bought an RV.
We bought an RV, so we traveled to all these markets.
Cool.
Because we didn't have a house, you guys. We didn't know where to go. What did we sell the house for in New York?
$875.
So bought it for $470, sold it for $875. 4 years later, we made money the whole time while living there, made it look better. It was safer.
Paid down principal the whole time too. So the equity that you had, the 3% probably turned into 15, 25, whatever, right? So
it killed it. It was a little bit of luck too, but yeah.
And if you run the numbers on what you made on the 3% investment, like, people will just say, oh, you sold it for this price, or you doubled your money. Actually, no, you did a lot more than that. If you look at the increase of money you made on the 3% investment, and you value your time and everything else. The education you got from that property.
I was going to say, yeah.
I still remember the first one I ever did, where I tried to be a drywaller and realized I probably spent 3 times as much on trying to drywall. I'm never drywalling again for the rest of my life. But digging out the basement, actually, I have a question for you guys on that. We're dealing with a file right now where there's a property like 6 minutes from here, make an awesome duplex, but the basement height is just brutal. How did you guys dig out a basement on your own? Like, what did the process look like?
Buckets.
Figuring out how to do it and then just doing it. Really, just buckets, eh?
5 gallon buckets, a shovel,
an actual shovel, you guys. Like, we're not
Wow.
kidding. I've got pictures of this, of just like dirt in our basement.
and 2 weeks of hard work.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we poured honestly, everything we do, we go overboard, mostly because we're learning and we're like, well, if the YouTube video said this, let's add 20%. So we like had this, thick slab of cement down there. I mean, we did things right.
We did thermal heating in the basement slab too, because our kitchen was down there, which is why it didn't sell originally for a premium price, but we made it gorgeous. And we also made it feel just
like
as
you
nice.
weren't underground.
Yeah, we put in huge windows, brought in a lot of natural light.
Had we had more money, we would have moved the kitchen upstairs and made like those. But number one, we were kids. Number two, we were figuring it out and hustling. And number three, we had Airbnb telling us we don't have to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why, like, anyone who's on here right now, kudos for just tuning into other people's stories, because that's truly how we had the courage to do it, because we just heard other people, just throw caution in the wind. They just had this like goal in mind. And it ended up, we've done stuff too that hasn't had such a great ending either. So you got to take the good with the bad.
You gotta roll the dice sometimes. But we landed in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, we're in the Midwest, and it's this market is. I mean, your market sounds insane. Our market's insane. But we're also, again, we heard you. I wish we could buy all the properties, because it's only gonna, only gonna get better.
We have family. I mean, you have family close too. She has family in Pennsylvania. I have family in the Cleveland area and in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Columbus. I had friends, so we came to visit our friends, and we stumbled. I called
on the MLS. So
yeah.
To your point, Justin,
I called a fellow real estate agent, and I'm like, hey, can you take me around? I want to learn about this town. The numbers were we were seeing articles on people are starting to move to Columbus, Ohio from California, Texas, New York. We had some friends who were from Astoria who moved to Columbus and are now, they were rocking it. They're still rocking it. Buying Airbnbs and just having all kinds of success. We're like, and I'm seeing these prices, and I'm like, we had a 650 square foot attached house with no garage, and our back patio was our entire yard. And here, and that was, I mean, almost $1 million. And then here, we're buying an all brick fourplex, huge yard with tons of up potential in one of the best neighborhoods in downtown Columbus for $410,000.
Wow, everybody on this call is coming to Columbus, Ohio. Like that's the
don't
value.
tell
there,
anybody.
Right? No,
Yeah.
The funny thing is, right? There's always so much inventory. It doesn't matter where you go. That's one thing I've seen over the years is you can go to the biggest cities in the world. Ultimately, if you're farming an area and doing deals in an area, it seems like, okay, I got to keep everything to myself. But there's just so many houses and so many deals to go around. Columbus, I think I said to you earlier, I stopped there quite often with my wife and daughter on our way down to Tennessee. When they open the borders back up, one day I will come and see you guys with the team and obviously check out what you're doing there. So I guess, how is your business morphed? So you did the Airbnb, made the money in New York, came to Columbus. Like, do you have a target? How many properties you own? Are you flipping them, selling them? Are you keeping them? Is the design aspect of the business a core component? What does your business look like today?
We went through a lot of iterations of
growing pains.
We didn't know where we fit because we came from other backgrounds before we got into real estate. But I would say we've been here for 3 years now, and we finally have, I would say, 3 to 4 buckets of income. And I think for us, staying somewhat diversified, and honestly, back in March and April,
has made all the difference.
It's made all the difference for us. So our 4 buckets include, Nick has a really strong architectural floor plan business, and we specialize in helping investors so maximize the value in their flips. The city has gotten really dialed in.
City's super strict, hired a whole bunch of professionals, architects, engineers, and now raised their standards. They require architectural drawings for all residential remodels. So that's good for business.
For our business.
Yeah, good for our business.
And for the safety of these houses too, honestly.
And working with all the, absolutely.
I agree. Seeing like some stuff, like again, I mentioned earlier about the MLS versus off-market deals. I see some stuff happen in our city where deals are just getting done very quickly and flipped to other people, and then other people are like, "Oh, I bought this triplex, and I'm literally dumping $200,000 into it because it wasn't structurally sound or whatever." And I think good people in an industry raise the level of standard, right? So if you guys are out there doing what you're doing, and I can see it in you, Nick, like the architecture piece you actually enjoy, right?
I
So
do.
you want to make it a component of your work, right? So it becomes now a bucket of income, and you turn a joy in your life into something that produces money, right?
Absolutely. And I think that there's a lot of criticism for flippers, at least here in Columbus, because it's a numbers game, it's volume, and I care about design, I care about quality. I don't care about this particular house, I care about the next 100. So I think it's great that we're taking the time to design houses better. And that kind of led me to the flipping side of things. Originally, I just wanted to buy and hold. I wanted to buy all the real estate and keep it all for myself, and
we
Airbnb
are.
it.
Yeah.
But that's a lot harder to do. It's a lot harder to do
you're
than you
managing the
realize.
property. Yeah, because if you're keeping them all and you're managing them all, that becomes one thing too, right? So you have, say a recurring revenue stream in the architecture business, then you have obviously flips that you're doing where you're flipping that equity, turning into bigger opportunities. And I'm sure, Sarah, the design component comes into that. Like you want to keep designing more and more houses. I'm sure.
Yeah.
You can get bored a little easily, right? If you came from that life of, working in acting and all that stuff to New York City, does every project mean something special to you?
Oh yeah. So that's another reason why we have to stay diversified. So bucket number one, Nick's got some draftsmen. They're doing a ton of
We just got our third draftsman working with us now.
They're redesigning some houses. We do flips, but we're not churning and burning them. Like we don't have 25, 30 properties at a time. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But we love design. So if we slow down and just do a few flips, we can also turn the stories, like you talked to your stars here about, are you documenting the process? We document the process, and now we're partnering with brands on Instagram and YouTube and on our email list. And so we're making income that way. So while we don't have the volume that a lot of flippers have, we have fewer houses, we're telling their story, we're partnering with these products that we're putting into them. And that way we're able to make up that income that maybe we'd be losing if we just had more flips that we could do.
So currently we are flipping 3 houses, which is actually the most we've ever done.
At one time.
And I think, at one time. And I think we're probably capable of doing 5 without hiring anybody else. Right now I have a PM who's awesome. And we're building a team.
Yeah.
We're very slowly and painfully building an awesome team that is gonna make Columbus better.
So that third bucket is marketing, right? So we're making money off of our story that we're just doing anyway. And so that's been cool. And then our fourth is I run short-term rentals. So I don't not only run our own, but I run select other short-term rentals, vacation rentals in the Columbus area. I'm using my hospitality hotel background to help my owners make not only as much money as possible, but have really safe places. I think people overlook the Airbnb thing. They get so obsessed with money and making it that these guests are coming in assuming the properties are safe, and that they're going to have everything that they need when they go to reach for it. And a lot of times that's just not the story that's happening. So it's my goal to bring in the best properties and to just give people traveling to Columbus or the neighboring areas a really great place to stay. So that's our story. That's what we're doing now that we've figured out what we're good at and what we can continue to keep doing. We put our heads down and we're just focusing on those things.
And we've staged, we've done basements. I was even a handyman when we first moved here because I'm like, what can we do to make money? We don't know anybody.
Yeah.
But we're finding out what we enjoy, and we're getting good at some of the things that are uncomfortable, like finding great people that want to join our team, and going from there, and then trying to do the things that we love and make us happy, because that's where we're finding ourselves having the most success. When we're doing the things we enjoy, we're happier.
But the goal is always to buy more property and hold it, but this is how we're making money so that we can do that. And then our education is just getting deeper and deeper, and we're making friends, hanging out with you guys here on Instagram and YouTube and all that kind of good stuff. And that's
awesome.
That's our story.
And you'll have people from all over on here. I'm looking at the names on the chat. We got people that are in Toronto. We have people that are in Grand Bend, London, obviously Columbus, Ohio. 2 things I want to expand on and, pick your brain on. One is that select property management component of it, right? You're already doing it for yourself. We have a number of investors that do it as well, but nobody really knows they do it because they only want to work with a certain type of landlord, or, the personalities have to be a match, right? I think that's one of the biggest things as you guys are learning and, dig into a few things. One, you got to know how to make the sauce, and you've done the work. So when contractors are coming and bidding jobs, you've dug the basements, you know the work that it takes. So you're not going to get hosed on some things that other people might, but you identify things you don't want to do and then hire people that are better than you to do those things. But you identify, the fact that, again, if you like the architecture side of things, Sarah, you like the hospitality side of things, it's in you. You're a people person. It translates. You want to do it, but again, you don't want it to become just about making as much money as you can and taking on as many clients as you can, because then you're basically trying to herd cats every day. You want to work with people that it's almost that warm referral, or when like both the landlords come to you or the people that are coming to rent them, it's almost like it's a done deal. It's just more of a formality. And now it's
Yes.
your opportunity to do that service delivery standard that really impresses them and follow up on what you promised them. Where again, on our side of the business, most things we deal with property management that cause an issue is all property managers kind of start the same. They start off really, really well. They do a good job up until a certain point, then they get too busy and their quality service delivery standards drop. They get overwhelmed. They feel they're underpaid. The clients feel like they're not getting service, and then the whole thing blows up, right? So where did you identify that point of your ideal client type, and how do you say no to business when you have the profile that you guys do?
Yeah.
Well, that's tough for us to say no, but I honestly think that social media is helping us tremendously for multiple reasons. We're transparent about everything, so I'm showing what's behind the walls. We're taking people on the journey of what it takes, of what we're putting into these houses, what we're putting into a business. I'm not always jazzed about going on IG and saying what's going on in my day, but I'm getting better at it, and I think that gives us a little bit of accountability too.
Accountability, and like I'll go on there and I'll be honest, like I'm not, I'll talk to people about onboarding a new property today. I'm really excited about these owners because X, Y, and Z, like they've invested in like really safe furniture. It's not secondhand stuff they picked off the side of the road that they're going to sell then to someone who's spending, market value for an overnight stay. Like,
yep.
On Instagram, local people know I just attract most of the time, I attract the right kind of potential client. And just this week, I got an email from someone, really sweet person. I actually worked with one of their other business partners in a great location. They had the funds to do a proper short-term rental. He has another one in an up and coming area. I feel very strongly that people who don't know Columbus don't give a crap that's an up and coming area. They want to know that they can roll in at 2 a.m. with their kids. They feel safe, and the houses next to them aren't boarded up and being flipped soon. They don't care, like they want to know that they can come in, they're feeling safe. And so I knew it wasn't the property for me. Can that Airbnb make money? Absolutely. Do I want to help it make money? No. So like I said to them, like, I can't help you with this. This doesn't fit our standards, but here are 3 other awesome, and they are awesome, hosts or property managers who would love to help you with your project. Because if it's not a good fit, I'm not going to have fun, and having fun has to be a part of our business structure.
I agree 1,000%. I actually gave the name of another agent to someone yesterday. I got a call on a file, and I read the name, read what he wanted. He was actually already in our database, so I knew who the client was. And I said, this is not somebody we work with. That's not our ideal property type. That's not how we do business. It's just not even in our model. Call this guy. This is all he does. He likes that type of business.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really tough thing for people to figure out, is what they want to do. And we've been working as a team to figure out what all of our ideal lives look like, what we're passionate about, how do we incorporate that into our work? And then over and beyond that, like this conversation is a part of it. How do you collaborate with like-minded people and grow a community that drives you? I don't know you guys. I've never met you in real life, but I know you better than people I went to high school with, because we followed each other's story. We talked many, many times. I've reached out to you guys to give you props on things you've done, or said how you've inspired me, or even asked you questions around Airbnb. And that's why I brought you on this panel, was really to expand on that story, because I think people, they have self-defeating prophecies. I can't do this. There's no way. Like Nick and Sarah, look at them, look at where they're at now. And, they started back then. I can't do it. What would you say to somebody that maybe just wants to start now? Like, say my wife said, hey, I want to do vacation rentals in Grand Bend and Airbnb them. What? I'm scared. I'm scared that, this property's not going to cash flow, or I'm going to get nightmare tenants, or somebody's going to trip and fall and sue me. What would you say to that question?
Yeah, I think it's great that you have those fears, and I think you should sit in them a little bit. And if you're still motivated, if you're still waking up wanting to like explore that, there's something in you that still's like, but I can't let it go, then you know that you're the real deal and that you really could withstand all the storms that are, I don't care if you have a background, you went to school for construction management, and you want to flip, or you have a
Do
background
whatever you
in
want.
musical theater and you want to flip. You have to want it so bad that those lessons aren't going to hold you down.
This is a great example. I'm going to bring my best friend into this. One of my best friends, I'm going to be making him a partner in our design firm. He's a registered architect, super talented, one of my draftsmen. And the deal is, once he quits his job and comes and works full time, we'll have a partnership. Until then, he's working for me. There's a painful period of transition where you can't just quit your job and jump into something new that isn't guaranteed. You have to do 2 jobs. You have to do twice the work. You're going to be tired. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to want to quit all the time, and it's going to be tough, and you're going to lose sometimes, and you're going to lose sleep. You're not going to be your best self, and you're going to be like, why am I doing this? But there is an end point that you're not going to be doing this forever. There's going to be a point where you're going to eventually transition into a point where this new thing that you're more passionate about, where you have more control, more options, more freedom, and more income potential, that you're going to be able to say goodbye to this. And then once that opens up, that's what Airbnb did for us. We didn't make a whole lot, but it paid our baseline where we could pay our rents, our car payments, our food costs, our insurance. And then I'm just like, okay, well, we're still poor, we still want more. We're still hungry, but we're covered. So now I'm getting up. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to exercise. I'm going to start reading. I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to start working on me. I'm going to start working on my business. And now instead of just learning a basic skill set and building up a small clientele base, now we're a powerhouse. Now we're taking on people to help us. Now we're getting cheerleaders. We're getting on social media. We're finding time to starting leverage others, building systems. It's a process. It's not something that you do in 6 months. It's not something that you do in a year. We're on year 3
Of Columbus.
And I feel like we're just getting momentum. This is just the beginning. And I'm like, if you have a 10-year plan, you usually overestimate what you can do or what you want to do in a year, and usually underestimate what you want to do in 10.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm on a 10-year track here. So I'm seeing, I'm so excited when people like set goals of like, we want to buy 20 houses this year. And I'm like, that's so cool. I'm intimidated by that. Like, yeah, that's amazing.
But after this call, we're gonna get off the phone. Like, wait a minute.
I'm gonna make some phone calls.
Talk to Jake and Paula. That's what this is, right? Like, this is collaboration, and maybe a friendship there where you guys learn something, they learn something from you. We all grow, all get better. When that light switch goes off, I got so excited, Nick, when you were talking about how, you pay that baseline, and then all of a sudden you have time. Right. And I could picture it now. Sarah's on Pinterest or House going through ideas and be like, I want to do this. And if I had an unlimited budget, I'd do this. And you're working on your business. I literally pound into the team's head. What does your calendar look like? Are you just appointments all day? Or do you have 30 minutes to go on reviewing this year or planning next year, setting goals, or reviewing your ideal client type, or working on your business, or working on a system? Last night for one of my builders, 11 o'clock at night, I'm going through his action plan of, how am I sending information to leads that are calling on his building site? Is it as dialed in? I'm going through leads. When were they last touched by the team? Working on the business, not something I necessarily want to do all the time. Definitely not 11 o'clock last night.
But you have to.
It's like you said. And the best part about it, I tell this story because it's something I think about quite often. Somebody told me once, if you go on a roller coaster and it's the most amazing roller coaster you've ever been on in your life, you forget it a week later. If you go on the worst camping trip you've ever been on in your life, your tent starts leaking, you're cold, you're miserable, you don't get food, you go fishing, you don't catch anything, you'll tell that story for the rest of your life. And the people that I've met that are at the peak of their industry, I met a gentleman recently who sold his company for a lot of money. You know what he told me? The money came and went. Didn't go anywhere. He still got it. But he got the check and he said, I thought everything would change the next day. He's like, next day I was the same guy. He's like, when I look back, it was building the business that really was what drove him. And now he's going into a new part of his life. And he said, I feel like I'm just starting. A lot of people would look at him and say, well, he's done. He can buy a mega yacht, go to Bora Bora, and he probably can. But it's like you said, Nick, I still have that feeling. I feel like it's literally day one of high school or elementary school. And then now I get to take a step forward and another one and another one, right?
It's almost like you don't know. You didn't realize that this was a state of existence, that where you had this opportunity, because you didn't think about building a multi-million-dollar business. It wasn't even an option. I just wanted to make 6 figures so I could go on vacation and drive a nice car and have a house that I didn't have to worry about. And then you're like, wait a minute. We can build teams, we can build systems, it's actually a real thing that anybody can do as long as they put in the time and the effort and their discipline. And let's say you're not as disciplined as you, and you need that accountability. Maybe you don't have your wife is a partner who's a star, but you can hire a coach. You can have a business partner, a best friend, or somebody that can help you stay accountable. And you can
Instagram friends. I mean, honestly,
you can start small too. It could be just, maybe I want to exercise 20 minutes a day, or maybe I want to eat better. What are you cooking for dinner? Send me pictures. And I do this with my buddy Danny, and that's how we compete on who can eat the healthiest and who can make the best dinners. And that can be scaled on so many different levels with your business. And we have a business coach, and we just, you gotta involve others and get other perspectives and challenge yourself enough, but not beat yourself up when you fail. Like, you're gonna make mistakes all the time. And I think we condition ourselves that making mistakes is the end of things. If I lose a few $1,000s on something, it's a lesson. And I'm gonna move on from it. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna put it in the back of my head. I was like, hey, let's not do this again. And then we're gonna move forward. And then we're gonna document, and we're gonna continue to talk about it. And we're also gonna help our circle of people and say, hey, don't do this. And they're gonna do the same for you. And I think that that's how all ships rise.
Well, like you said, your buddy who sold his business and you thought he'd be different the next day. I think that's another reason why it's really important, you guys, to like make sure that you continue to have fun in your business and only work with people who believe what you believe in terms of the product that you want to create. I mean, I'm all about diverse thinking and diverse ways of getting to different places. But if you're not essentially aligned on the core, if you don't want to like think of an Airbnb as an actual business that's going to take capital to get it up and running, and that their safety is more important than anything else, or like the product that you deliver, if that's not what, then you're not going to be my client. It's not going to happen. And that way I know that I am in it right now. This is the good stuff. Even though I've got goals that I haven't reached yet, this is the time, because when I reach those goals, if I know us, we're going to be the same person that next morning, and we're going to have to build something else until the day we die. Yeah. So you're in it right now. This is the good stuff. So just make sure that you're aligning with people who believe what you believe.
I agree. And I think another shift that we had recently was, we kept setting goals and kind of push, and they realized, we're growing. We're not necessarily just setting goals. And Nick and Sarah, I've seen that. You guys, when I look at you, I can imagine you have goals and things that you look at as wanting to accomplish every year. But when you step back, goals are short term. Your growth plan is what you're really focusing on. And life is for living. I think every day is an opportunity. I think gratitude's a big part of it. Just saying, well, like, I can't believe we're here. I can't believe I'm having a conversation with you guys. One day you'll meet my wife and daughter. We drive an RV through Columbus. She doesn't like flying. So my daughter and my wife watch flipping shows on TV all the time. She's 6. She sits with me and looks at the MLS, does property searches, and she was telling us how opinionated she was. She was actually talking about Scott McGilvery, saying she likes his show because he has rules on his vacation rule set.
Yeah.
But, I look at how new she is to that whole world. I look at where you guys are, and then the opportunities that are out there. And it's, diversifying is very important. I'm really happy you guys touched on that, because I think, again, if things go sideways with COVID or whatever else happens, it's a good lesson for people to think about of, always finding maybe a 10, 20, 30% thing that you can add to your business, components of the business you don't necessarily want to do, but you do the work you don't want to do so you can do the work you want to do. Sarah, I really love the fact that you're getting super dialed in on the people you want to work with and that feel good business, because I think that's what it's all about. You can do transactions and make money and be like, ugh, like the feeling I got from that interaction wasn't something I love doing. It felt very transactional. I didn't feel valued as a person. They didn't seem to value the transaction that much. I'm just going to say no to that next time. And the legacy business that you're doing with people that, you equate to going out for coffee or dinner with to talk shop, the conversation around the transactions like 10 minutes, and then it's 45 minutes to 2 hours of everything else about life, about growth, about business. The actual business conversation ends up being about this much because they already know Nick, you're going to bang out the architecture, Sarah, you're going to do the design work, or if the roles are reversed, they're going to take care of what they're going to take care of because the trust is established.
Yeah.
And that's what I think it's all about, is building that community trust, right?
Yep, 100%.
So I'm going to bring in one of my favorite people on the planet, Lindsay Gowan. So her story, so you guys are aware, she was an investor first. So she worked with Scott's group. So Scott has a membership platform. We speak at their events. She came on as a member, made a huge bet on herself, bought an investment property, flipped it, bought another one. She was working at a flooring company and she had worked for a cabinet maker. So she was new design. She actually went to Humber College for interior design. I called her one day. I'll let her tell the story. She says I told her to go get a real estate license to come work with us. I didn't remember it that way. So she called me one day licensed and said, hey, I got my license. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. She's like, well, can I come work with you? And I was like, sure, come on in for an interview. So I will let her in and let her tell the story. And she's going to ask you guys a few questions.
Yeah, definitely. So Justin always likes to say that I called him, but yeah, I distinctly remember he called me because I wasn't even thinking about getting my real estate license at all. I just wasn't in that mindset. And so Justin called me and said, would you ever consider getting your real estate license? Like, you've got that design background. We work as a team as real estate agents. So it's great to have like different powers, and we're all like on a power team. So it's great. And when he had called me, I was like, yeah, like maybe. So like my next call was to my parents, telling them that I was going to become a real estate agent. So that's just an opportunity that I couldn't turn down. And yeah, and the rest is history from there. So I've been working with the Prime team for about a year now, and nothing but great. It's just been a great year. So lots has happened. And
so Lindsay, you were also super excited when I mentioned Nick and Sarah. You've been following their story for a while, right?
For sure. Yeah. I think it was actually you that told me to go follow them, just because they had that interior design background and they're doing really cool things. And so I've been following you for a while now, and I was super excited that you guys were going to come on and share your story. And I love too that it really is more about the mindset and just the way that you attack things more than the investments themselves. Because it's so funny, when I started, everyone was just talking about mindsets and mindsets and mindsets. And I'm just like, okay, like, can we get into like the numbers and everything like that? But like, it's so important to like start with the right mindset, and then everything just becomes so easy from there. And again, I think I started investing 2.5 years ago. And at that time, of course, I had big goals, but everything just feels so slow when you're doing it, and like one foot in front of the other. But it's like, oh, will I ever get there? And then you look back 2.5 years ago and see where you were, and it's so amazing to see how much you can accomplish in that amount of time. And again, yeah, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and my life has never been the same since. So I actually just read it again and got super fired up too. So yeah. And then, so I do want to hear a little bit more about your investing and so your strategies. So I know that you dived a little bit into them, but you yourselves, are you Airbnb-ing your long-term holds, or what's your strategy there?
Yeah, so that's honestly, yes, we do make more on the short-term rentals, but hospitality is just natural for us. So, and it's something I've learned as a short-term rental property manager, is that while people love the numbers, a lot of them don't understand that it's not passive. It is quite active, right? You have new people coming and expecting the same product every time. But it's a system that we know and understand. So as of now, every property we buy and hold, we run the numbers so that it works for a long-term tenant or resident. But we short-term rent it because it's just what we know. It's what we know. We have the systems already in place. So. And
let's point out the elephant in the room. COVID has changed a lot of things. We used to make easily double. Well, the Columbus climate is changing too in real estate. It's on fire, where cash flow used to be super, super easy. Just, property values didn't necessarily go up that fast or that quickly, but you could just cash flow all day long. And then something really cool happened and prices started skyrocketing, 15% a year, 20% a year. And now you still had the cash flow, but it's starting to slow down, even though rents are on the rise as well. But there's usually a lag time between rents. So now we're starting to see rents go up finally, which is fantastic. But I think that, originally we were making double of what a long-term renter, our long-term renters were paying about half of what we were Airbnb our units for.
Yeah.
Now that's changed a little bit with COVID. I think long-term though, it's going to come back even stronger. Businesses are now realizing that maybe a small percentage of businesses are realizing that their employees are going to be just as productive from home or from any remote location that they would be in the office. Not everybody, but some, which is still vacation is going to come back. We're going to go see our friends and family again. It'll happen. We're going to figure this out. And then on top of that, we'll have that small employee base that's going to be working remotely full-time moving forward. So I think the short-term rental industry is going to continue to be strong for many, many years. And hopefully by then you'll have paid off your property or certainly have gotten a lot of equity built up in it over the years. Rents have gone up. You would easily cover your costs for long-term. And as a retirement present to yourself, you can hire a management company, switch over to the long-term and enjoy your 50s and 60s.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have a lot of the same kind of train of thoughts. Again, with making sure that strategy works with both a long-term and a short-term, it's important to always have that plan B lined up and not rely only on one plan.
Yes.
And also like understanding that you're making more than just cash flow in a property. Like there's a lot of different ways that you do make money, and highlighting that kind of in the downtimes. And I was going to ask kind of how COVID has affected things. And yeah, so I'm glad that you got into that. We do have another question from the audience. They asked, what is your target occupancy rate for Airbnbs?
Okay, I'm very passionate about this, you guys. If you're at 100%, you're too cheap.
Raise your prices.
Raise your prices. And if you are at anything below, I would say 70 or 65%, you're too expensive probably.
Lower your prices.
Lower your prices a little bit. But here's the thing, you want to what I do is I keep track. Now, I now have software that helps me, but even if you don't, a simple spreadsheet, what did you make in January 2020 and then compare it to January 2021 and have that track sheets that you can have. You're not just playing around with numbers, right? There's thought behind it. You're doing market research, but I like to keep my properties right around 80%. Because if I go any higher and I have all these people in my property, there's just more liability, more opportunity for a bad apple to come through.
More wear and tear.
More wear and
tear. More utilities.
Yeah. So I find my sweet spot is right around that 80-85%. And I'm making just as much as I would be lowering my prices at 100% occupancy. So it's kind of like that same thing with I love how people how many doors do you have? And I'm like, for me, it's not about doors. It's about how much money I'm bringing in, how much cash flow I'm bringing in each month. So it's the same thing with short-term rental income strategy. And think of it over the whole year, right? So yes, you want to have monthly markers of how much you're bringing in, but with short-term rental properties, vacation rental properties, really look at is how much the property is bringing in on over the year and have that median income so that you can really understand what that property is making.
Yeah, I would say definitely take ego out of the equation. There are certain things that will make your life easier. I don't want to brag about having 20 doors. I want to advise on how awesome it is to have a fourplex or a multifamily or a really well done single family home in a fantastic area. And it doesn't have to be the best neighborhood in your city. It just has to have, maybe we're by the convention center, maybe we're by the airport, maybe we're by a park, or what's the draw? And there has to be something special. One of our Hocking Hills properties, our client has a waterfall.
It's a vacation rental area.
It's a waterfall.
In Columbus.
I need to make a trip down just to go to that one.
Yeah, if you were going to do that, Lindsay, we had another question, and this might help you, Lindsay. If Lindsay was going to come visit you in Columbus for a week or less, how much would it cost her to stay in an Airbnb?
Yeah, well, it kind of depends on the experience you want. So we have urban rentals, and then we have a bit more vacation type rentals. So, and it depends what neighborhood you're in and what kind of amenities do you want the house to provide for you. If you want to be in one of the most historic neighborhoods, cute brick streets, coffee shops that are old and quaint, that are walkable, for a week in an urban Airbnb like that, 2 bedrooms, you could probably expect to pay right now about $1,000 for the week.
But if you want a 7-bedroom cabin in a beautiful remote area with waterfalls and trails and vineyards and game rooms.
You guys are sales mode. I love it.
Yes.
You're looking at your 2,000 a night.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
what about if I need a place to park an RV and stay for 3 days?
Yeah, well, park an RV. That's one we need to tackle then, Justin. We'll send you an RV park that we actually
stayed in
for 6 months.
Yeah.
When we
Okay.
moved here. We'll
Yeah.
send
Awesome.
you there. Yeah.
And these are American prices too, so I'm
Oh yeah, USD. Yep.
Yeah, that always factors in for us Canucks. So we'll wait till the dollar's in a good spot. And they actually let us into the country. So when COVID hit, I was actually in an RV in Florida going through Tennessee. We have partners in Charlotte, North Carolina as well, or Concord. And we were supposed to see them, but we had to just book back because a client of mine that works for the Canadian military said they're shutting the borders in like 3 days. So he's like, get back now. So
Get home.
it was quite an adventure, but it was a good sales point for an RV because we were completely self-contained. Like we got to the border and they're like, yeah, they told us we didn't actually need to quarantine. We were there right before the quarantine date. And because we were in our own unit, we never touched an airport. We were in basically an Airbnb when we were down in Florida. We never were exposed to anybody, but good advertising. So go buy an RV if you're scared of COVID.
And actually you can Airbnb your RV, or there's platforms called RV Share and
There you go. That's awesome.
Outdoorsy, yeah, and that cash on cash return is pretty sweet. So
my father-in-law's in the auto business, so you should talk to him. He got a crazy price on our RV for us.
I love that.
One thing I want to put on for you guys as well is your podcast. So the Thanks for Visiting podcast. You guys have some awesome episodes there, and Lindsay found you guys because I sent your profile. I think I'm directly responsible for like 0.001 of your followers because I keep sending to people. But I'll drop the link in the chat if anybody's looking for a good podcast to listen to for tangible advice around managing. I mean, look at some of the topics: how to price your properties for success, attracting influencers for short-term rentals, what to consider when hosting photo shoots in your rentals, pivot from overnight short-term rentals to niche. Like these are all tangible in the mix things you're doing, and you're just sharing the advice. So how's that experience been for you kind of going into the podcast world?
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's so much fun. We're meeting so many people who actually reach out and follow through on our call to action, email us. And it's been great because here's what I know is that, yes, we have a lot to share just by doing and having experience behind us, but every guest we have on, I learn something new. And that's the cool thing about connecting with people and slowing down and saving time to network or listen to podcasts. You learn so much from the way people do things or think about things or turn it on its head. So, yeah.
You know, I don't do the podcast with Sarah. If you do follow her, her and Annette are fantastic. And I've seen so much growth in both of those young women over the last few years, because they're very dedicated. But it's interesting too, because we always talk about networking and how do we grow a network and how do we grow each other. The 5 people I spend the most time with is probably the average of what you are, you know, your income and all that. I'm seeing you're kind of killing 2 birds or 3 birds or 4 birds with one stone. You got all this marketing, all this content, all this advertising, and you're building a skill set there for social media. But now they're meeting all these people that we're starting to partner with people. It's bringing opportunities to us. And it's really challenged you and grown a really awesome business.
But tune in, every week is new content. So yeah.
I was gonna give you guys a tip. This actually I heard directly from a guy who spent time with Gary Vee about taking your podcast, dropping it in rev.com. So you're transcribing your episodes to text. Have it in one massive Google Doc. This is the real hack that Gary does. So when they do produce micro content, they search that master document for references. So if he says to his team, hey, I want to create 5 posts around short-term rentals or listings, you literally go find listings and it'll pull up all the actual quotes around listings, all the timestamps. So you can take clips from your video and actually repurpose that content and make it searchable. So we did that with a lot of our backlog content and it's been awesome. And Sarah, you hit it on the money. SEO, blog posts, you can repurpose old episodes for really in-depth blog posts because not everybody likes audio medium. Some people like to read. They'll sit down with a coffee and actually go through the blog. So I'm awesome that all that content is there. I'm an audio guy because I like to multitask and listen for sure while I'm doing other things. So Musa, thank you, brother. He said this Zoom call was good content. I definitely think so. I think it's a good time to wrap it up. Sarah and Nick, I appreciate you guys so much. Definitely looking forward to meeting you in person one day. And thank you for just sharing your knowledge with the audience. You guys are awesome. And I'm excited to see you continue to grow.
Thanks for the platform to share our story.
It's been fun.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll repurpose this all on YouTube and then I'll send you guys the link. See you guys. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your Saturday.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
All right. See ya. Bye, Kelly. Take care.